Hello and welcome to our first sofa chat. I'm Susie Jones and I'm here today with Kathy Zablotsky. I can't remember how long we've been friends, Kathy, but it's a fair few years, isn't it? It must be nearly 20. Yeah, heading on to 20
Yep.
years, I think. And we've just been having a good giggle, so I'm sorry if we're still giggling. But so it's our first sofa chat, and Kathy and I could probably be here all day, but thank goodness for the video editing suite that we both have. So Kathy, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, but before I do, I'm going to ask you to introduce somebody else.
Okay.
I'd like you to introduce Silly Sidney, the stick insect, which is, I suppose you should, strictly speaking, be on our book club, shouldn't you, with this gorgeous, colourful, bright story that you've created here about the very delightful Silly Sidney. So introduce Sidney in the voice of Kathy Zablotsky.
Okay, I would like to introduce Silly Sidney the Stick Insect. This book came about because, well, it and many others to follow. The second one is finished and is now with the illustrator, which is Bessie the Busy Bumblebee. Came about because a friend suggested we collaborate on a project where we write together books that are about stories about animals I've actually communicated with, because I'm an animal communicator.
Yeah.
And she then quite quickly decided she didn't want to do any writing at all. so, so had to decide who I was going to write about. And my first thought was Sydney, who is our own pet stick insect. And little Sydney escaped one day out of his tank, out of our home, into the next door neighbour's garden, who had a pet pig. And little Sydney was actually captured halfway across her lawn, and we brought him home before he could reach the pig and possibly get trampled on. But
Mm.
in the story, Sydney actually reaches the pig. And it's a story about friendship and don't judge a book by its cover. And so, yes, Silly Sydney is my first book writing project.
Unlikely friends.
Yes, very unlikely friends.
Well, I love the book, Kathy, and
Thank
I
you.
think if we just tell people a little bit about our history, it might be, quite fun for people to know um, what nonsense I get up to over the years and the wonderful people that I meet along the way. So we met, goodness me, was it in Lincolnshire or Newark? Was it? I can't
We met in Newark at a school
remember.
and I thought this was a really bizarre thing, actually. The school was raising funds, and one of its projects to raise funds was to have a, a, a day of tarot card readers and people selling crystals and healing products and light workers and all kinds of spiritual things, which kind of seemed odd for a school to embrace that, and quite wonderful. And I remember that I walked in to the area where we were all gathering at the beginning of the day. And that thing happened where I looked across the room and I saw you, and I just knew I had to come and talk to you.
Yeah.
It just had to happen. I could not have done anything else but come and talk to you. And I remember you were talking to someone else at the time, and when they went off, I scuttled over to say hello. And we had a lovely chat, and I asked you what you do, and you said, I'm a light worker. And my response was, well, I've heard of those, but what do you do? And
What's
you
that
said, well,
mean?
I don't know. I do what I'm guided to do. And I came to your house about 2 weeks later. We exchanged cards. I came to your house about 2 weeks later, and you did your work on me.
Mm.
And the interesting thing for me, you literally changed my life, Susie, because I had been going to psychic development groups for years.
Mm.
I'd been going to spiritual days and meditations and healing things and all kinds of stuff for years. And I always had this block. And that day when I came to your house, you removed that block. and that changed everything for me. And I know for a fact that if I hadn't met you that day, come and spoken to you, come to your house, done that work with you, I would not be an animal communicator today, because I wouldn't have been ready. That
Mm.
block had to be removed for me to progress spiritually. So I will always hold you in the highest esteem.
And meet you, my lovely, who and Kathy looked after my dog for me from an animal communicator perspective when he was very poorly, and helped me with my grief as well quite a lot in terms of losing him. It was quite painful. And also uh, my cat since, really, haven't you? So
Yes.
yeah, so we've found a really good friendship, and that was the first and almost last time I actually did my work in public, up until last year, when I brought Isis Wisdom and Isis Healing to people in York and Leeds. Um, I don't think it's my bag, those sort of things. That they're great, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's the right place for me. Do you still do that sort of big group work like we did that
Um,
day?
I don't go to those sort of psychic fairs to work.
Mm,
Not saying I wouldn't. I still might, but there aren't any around here, so that
yeah,
doesn't help. I'm in Scotland now, and out in the countryside and quite away from Edinburgh and Glasgow. And
yeah,
there's not much of this going on in Edinburgh. I think there's
yeah.
one lady I know of who puts on events. But I prefer more, if I'm going to work with in public, I prefer more if it's where I have a group of people together, and I
Yes.
do readings for them, and I teach
Mm,
them little tricks they can use to communicate with their own animals.
yeah.
So I prefer that it's about animal communication.
Yes, because at the time you were doing tarot reading, weren't you? And
Yes, and
do you still do that?
I still love the cards. I
Mm,
absolutely love the cards, and I still read quite regularly. It's usually over Zoom these days, or
yeah.
sometimes people come to my house or I'm at their house.
Mm,
But I do absolutely love, 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 love the cards, and
mm,
I'm very happy that I still get work doing tarot card readings as well.
mm,
I don't actually use tarot cards, but I do use a deck of 52 cards.
yeah.
But they're not actual tarot cards. They don't have a major and minor arcana. But yeah, just I love doing cards. I love teaching people intuitive tarot, how to read without any books or any
Mm,
knowledge. And I love to teach. I love to
mm.
teach animal communication as well.
Yeah, I mean, you taught me how to manage the tarot as well, didn't you?
Yes, we did a
Which has
session.
completely transformed the way I read it. And it's so incredibly accurate when you do
It
it
is.
intuitively,
It is.
rather than via the book. Although I don't think the book's a bad idea. I just think that there's a better idea, but that's a personal choice. So, and
Yeah,
going on to your teaching, I mean, obviously you're an author, now published, almost
I
to
am now.
twice, yeah. And the beauty of this, and I have to say, it says this book is dedicated to the children all over the world who can understand animals. And we see a lot of children's stories and films about children really having that amazing, unlimited liberation to speak to imaginary friends or to speak to their animals and read stories to their animals, which I
Mm.
know is really helpful for a lot of children. Um, you as a teacher, you're amazing. So how are you developing that? Are you going to write a book about how to communicate with animals, or what are you going to do? What's your plan?
Okay, there are two things. I am in the slow process at the moment of writing a book about animal communication. But the teaching element of that is my hope for the book. It's all about communicating with animals who've passed over and what they've taught me about the other side, about how they feel about our grief, our regrets, all the things we go through, our anger and guilt.
Mm,
So, my hope for that book is that it will help people to understand that our love never dies and the animals we love never go away. They're just on the other side of that door, and if we're open to it, we may well see signs and see the things that they're bringing us to show us that they're safe and well and that our love is still intact. So that really is to help people who are grieving,
Yeah,
whether for animals or for humans, it doesn't matter.
absolutely. Yeah.
But the other thing I'm working on right now is a training course.
Right. Okay.
And there's a lot of people have, from my experience as an animal communicator, a lot of people have issues with behavior and they will come to people like me to see if they can get some help. So
Mm,
let's say, for example, you have a cat who is forever climbing up your curtains and clawing them,
mm,
or you have a dog who never stops barking.
mhm.
People will try trainers, they'll watch videos on YouTube, they'll try different techniques, they'll scream and tear their hair out. They
Yeah.
might come to someone like me and say, can you ask them why on earth are they doing it and how can we get them to stop? And I always tweak that actually in readings. I always try to help people understand that yes, we want to know why they're doing it, but we want to help them find something else to
Yeah.
do. We
Yeah.
want to help them, and that helps us. So out of that was born the fact that what I've discovered over the years by doing readings is that readings can transform relationships with our animals.
Yeah.
Um, Interestingly, especially horses.
Really.
I can't tell you how often people have come to me and said, "Oh, I got this horse, I've had him for 4 years, and we still don't have a relationship."
Mm,
And through animal communication, through communicating with that horse, finding out what the barriers are and what the person needs to do to shift that relationship, and then having them act on it, those people end up with the most wonderful relationships with their horses.
mm,
But it applies to all animals, and but especially horses and dogs, because they're the ones we're closest to. Cats are more independent,
mm,
and they're either going to have a great relationship with us, or they're going to be very independent and not be so fussed. But with dogs, of course, we always want that really beautiful, close relationship, and behavioral issues can cause huge frustration. And take, for example, if every time you go to feed your dog, they're jumping up at you while you're preparing the food. And you've tried everything and you can't get them to stop. And every mealtime, every single day, you're tearing your hair out.
mm.
That's a big barrier to a good relationship with
Yeah.
your dog. A huge barrier because every time you're getting near dinner time, you're like, oh, I've got to go through all this again. So that's where I decided that this course could really help people
Mhm.
because a lot of dogs have told me how we can help them with behaviors. And I want to bring that to people, what dogs have said we can do to help with different things. And interestingly, it does have a bit of a crossover into animal behavior because, not surprisingly, dogs will often recommend that we try things with them that a behaviorist might recommend too
Oh, yeah.
because animal behavior is what we're dealing with
Yeah.
here. And a dog might, for example, a classic example, a few weeks ago, I had a lady contact me, her dog, they've got a barrier to their front door because the dog goes nuts at the front door. And it's ridiculous. And so they can get people in, but the dog's going nuts at the barrier. And the dog said, well, why don't you throw a treat to the back of the room? And then when I come back, throw another one. So you'll occupy me going and getting the treats instead of jumping all over the people.
So what
And
was that? Can I ask you? And the reason I asked, because Sky was a bit like that. Sky would love everybody and wanted to be in on the action. So are they able to tell you why they are acting out, if you like, as well? I mean, that's the solution, isn't it?
yes,
Keep me occupied. Is it just because they're so excited to see the guest, or mostly?
it can be. It can be all sorts of different
Right.
reasons. Sometimes there's an element of protective behavior, even if they're appearing to love everybody. There can still be an element of well, you know, I love people and all that, but they've just come in the house and I'm not sure if I should be getting between you and just making sure that they're okay.
Oh, yeah.
So there can be lots of different reasons for a behavior, and they can be the key to what to do.
Mm,
But it's not uncommon for the dog to be able to say what they know will help. And 99 times out of 100, if they say, try this, it works
mm.
because they know what will motivate them to do something different.
And certainly with my dog Sky, who, I mean, Oreo's an angel, so you know, there are no issues with her really at all.
Yeah.
But Sky had lots of issues because of his abusive past, I suppose. And he, do you know, I've lost my train of thought. What was I going to say about him?
We were talking about dogs knowing what we can do to help them with behaviors.
Do you know, I have completely lost my train of thought. So we'll move on. I won't be editing that out because
I would.
it doesn't matter. A conversation's like that, isn't it? I mean, there's something about this program. It's authentic. I do, you know, take some stuff out, but most I leave my moments of madness in just to make people feel at home. So I'll come back to my Sky, who wasn't. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
So basically, the idea of the course, one of the big things I discovered was by fixing the relationship, improving the relationship, very often these behaviors would get less. And or by the other thing, from through the suggestions that the animals, that the dogs gave, by changing what we do, the behavior can improve.
Yes.
By looking at it, responding differently.
Yeah.
Give you an example: a dog that barks all the time. You know, you get up to go in the kitchen, they jump up and down and bark. You get their lead, they bark. Someone comes to the door, they bark. It's like everything you do, you're eating, they're barking at you. You know, you get those dogs who just seem to be
Just
constantly
bark.
barking at you.
Yeah.
And very often we feed into it without realizing it.
Mm.
So a classic one is shouting at them. Now there's two of you barking.
Barking.
So that's really not going to help. And we actually have a bit of a barking issue with our Teddy. He loves to bark. It's his favorite way to express himself. And you can't. A friend of mine said you have to work with the dog you've got. And that's true. You can't change them into someone else. We can't change Teddy into a dog who doesn't like to express himself by barking whenever he's excited or really happy. But what we can do is change how we respond to it. And so with Teddy, for example, if he's being silly and he's got into that, I can't stop barking. What I found is to just get down the floor in front of him and I hold his face and I say, Teddy, you don't need to do this. Now just stop.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
And that's often enough. Sometimes he'll start again in 2 or 3 minutes and I have to do it again. But once I've done it 2 or 3 times, the barking generally stops. And it's just changing what you do can make a huge difference to a behavior. Another thing that can change it is your body language.
Yeah.
So, for example, if every time your dog barks, you're leaning over them
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah. Which
they're
is
going to
body
be.
screaming, isn't it? It's when your body's
Yes,
screaming.
it is.
Yeah.
Good way to describe it. I might put that in the course. But again, you're creating an anxious environment, and so that's not going to calm your dog down, which is what has to happen for them to stop barking. So body language can affect it, our reaction can affect it, or changing the circumstances. So if every time you're getting the food ready, your dog's sitting next to you barking at you, you can change the circumstance. You put them out the room. That's a change of circumstances. You could pop them out in the garden with a chewy toy for a few minutes while and then go do their foods. They're not aware you're doing it. Change the circumstances. So this course is really a culmination of so many things that dogs have told me we could do to help with behaviors. And by removing all those little frustrating moments that we have, we automatically improve our relationship. It becomes more loving. And also in the course, I will be giving people exercises to do to create that more loving relationship. And that will have that knock-on effect of improving behaviors anyway.
Can
And
I
some
tell you? Sorry.
and some animal communicator tips.
Yeah, well, I think it's
Of
great. I
course.
mean, you really helped with Sky, and I remember um, walking with him through the forest. And one of my biggest problems was wasn't dog friendly. He loved other dogs, and I couldn't understand why. And it was, I think we worked it out together, was that he was protecting me.
Mm,
And there was a pathway coming out of the forest that had a house that was in construction, just through the gate, the barrier of the forest. And there was a bit of a wild dog. It wasn't wild, it's a home dog that wasn't in any way behaviorally sensible. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous collie dog. And collies can be a little bit wappy, can't they? Anyway, so I could hear the dog barking as we were heading out. Now, Sky was huge and strong. So it's a bit like Teddy, you know, he was a big dog and he could
yeah.
pull me over. And although I'm tall, I'm not strong, never have been very athletic. Anyway, so I knew the dog was barking. So I yanked Sky into my hip, if you like. And I just talked to him. I said, "We're walking home." So, and he looked at me to say, I know that you've said something to me and I've got to behave myself. You could see that look on his eye because he had some things. So we were walking along towards the barrier and the dog, and we just got over the barrier and the dog ran towards us.
Mm,
And I thought, oh dear, there's going to be a dog fight. This is not going to be fun. But I didn't do anything with that thought. I let my body language become a warrior
yeah.
and strode towards that dog saying, "Go home, go home." And
Mm.
Sky just looked at me as if to say, "Why am I protecting you? You're a warrior." And
Yeah.
I think that if you do, you know, you taught me so much with him, didn't you? And he never ever tried to protect me after that.
Mm.
And I,
And that is as simple as body language, changing your mindset actually, and your body language.
yeah. So
Mm.
this dog scurried off home like, what? I have to say that I did swear in Spanish at him. Rather,
Understandable.
nobody understood no, but this guy did, as he was Spanish. So he was like, whoa. so, so I can vouch for your great capacity at teaching. So when is this course available and where do we find it, Kathy?
The course will be available next month. It's going to go up module by module, so it's 6 weeks.
Okay.
There's nothing huge for anybody to do. This is something I've done very deliberately. There's an exercise and a task each week, but the one of the big things I want to do with this course, and I am doing with this course, is it's not going to expect people to spend half an hour every day doing this,
Oh, right.
or
Okay. Yeah.
every time you're out for a walk, you do that. It's not going to do that, because I think one of the big barriers to us improving behavior is, we might get in a dog trainer and they say, right, every time you give your dog a treat, they have to earn it. So you have to make them sit or lie down, and we get fed up with that very quickly, don't we? We like, oh, just give them a treat.
And the
Um,
animals do.
yes.
And I think that's what I was going to say when we were talking, that I actually paid for animal behaviorists. And
Mm,
to me, it felt cruel what I was doing. It was sort of the antithesis of my relationship I got with Sky.
yeah.
And
And that is another issue, is that if it doesn't fit in with what we feel is right, we're not going to do it,
no,
you know. And
oh,
dog training even more so in many ways. Every time you walk your dog, you're going to have it at heel and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and we're like, oh, I just want to go for a walk. I just want to relax. Like, that's my time out. That's the time when I don't want to be working. And
yeah.
so we kind of prevent the things we're told to do working very often. And so what I'm trying to do with this is to say, well, you're not going to be asked to do any of that. So the tasks will be no more than 5 minutes a day, for example. The exercise will mainly involve just writing something down, and it will take you no more than 5 minutes, and that's just once at the beginning of the week. So what I want to do is to bring in things that people can just make part of their day,
Right.
rather than having this big expectation. And another thing, we tend to, I think one of the big barriers to improving behaviors is we think we have to do things for a period of time. Now, what I
Mm.
mean by that is, for example, um, if you've got a really reactive dog, the worst part of your day is taking them for a walk.
Yeah, which
And
was my problem. Yeah.
yeah, and very often people, well, you'll either get people who just don't take them
Yeah.
because they can't cope with it, um, or the alternative is they take them, they grit their teeth, they dread every minute of it, they don't enjoy the walk, and they're blooming glad when they get home. And so, one of the things I'm trying to get across with this as well is yes, our dog needs exercise. Yes, it's good for them to take them out. But if you put that pressure on yourself every day, that's a huge barrier to your relationship with your dog. You're
Yeah.
not enjoying the walk. Your dog's not getting the pleasure from the walk they could be getting because of your state of mind. And so, one of the things I'm trying to do here is say there are alternatives.
Mm.
You could, for example, let's say you live in a town or a village or even a city, you could just stand outside your door for 10 minutes with your dog on the lead, having a conversation with them, giving them the odd treat, playing with them with a little toy, bring them back in. Start to create moments outside
Mm.
that are pleasurable
Mm.
so that you can begin to release that feeling of pressure every time you get the lead on, every time you go to step outside the front door. Find places you can go, you can drive to where you know there won't be any dogs,
Mm.
and you can take them for a little walk and relax.
Mm.
Find different things to do. So again, it's about just trying to break down those barriers to your good relationship that you could be having and taking all that pressure off yourself. We
Mm.
put huge amount, we guilt trip ourselves. Oh, if I don't walk him for half an hour every day, I'm a terrible mummy. I'm a terrible dog owner. And actually, you're not, because
Mm.
it could be that that half hour every day is so stressful for your dog as well as you that you're
Yeah.
not doing anybody any favors.
And of course, you can buy a field now, can't you? A dog
You
field where you
can.
can
Yes,
buy
you can rent
time
it.
there to actually have fun. And they often have like toys for for the dogs, don't they? That they
Yeah,
can jump over. And
that's
I
right.
certainly found with Sky, because he would sit and you'd be eating your dinner and his nose would come up to the table. And so he was a bit of a thief in that respect. But one of the things I think you taught me was, we played a game and he
Mm,
had to go to his bed and he had
yeah,
to lie down, which he loved. He loved to play games, such an intelligent dog,
yeah.
And then I'd sort of have the tiniest bit of kibble or whatever, and I'd put it on the floor and I'd say, not yet. And it became a real game. And eventually when he'd release, he'd come, he'd lay down in front of it. He wasn't allowed to touch it till he got the key. And just playing those sort of games that you taught me, really just to to help him and I have that relationship of
Yeah,
trust,
yeah.
equal trust. We were both playing. That was an equal trust. So, yeah, you have some really good tips that can help. So,
Thank
this
you.
sounds a fantastic course. And will it fit for horses as well, and rodents,
Well,
other things, or is it dogs?
it's aimed at dogs.
Right.
So it will be aimed at specific things to do with dogs. For example, problems with nail clipping, problems with reactivity, with stealing, all these different things.
Mm.
But there's a lot of what's in there could relate to horses, a lot of it,
Right.
because okay, you might not have a horse barking at you, but you might have a horse who isn't listening to you,
Yeah.
and we'll be looking, my aim by the end of the course is that if you go through the whole thing, the dog by the end is listening to you more, they're paying attention more, they're more engaged with you, you're more engaged with them, you're having more loving moments, and just generally the whole relationship is, and it touches on what you just said a moment ago, is much more of a partnership.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not, I'm the human and you're the dog.
Yeah.
And I've found interestingly, since becoming an animal communicator, that dog owners come kind of in two forms, really. One is my dog's a human being and will be treated as such. And the other one is my dog's a dog and I better remember that because we're not the same, we're not equal.
We are not now, yeah.
And interestingly, when people have an animal communication, it reinforces my dog's a human. My dog understands when I talk to them. My dog understands what I mean. They read my body language. They're intelligent. They can give me cohesive answers via an animal communicator to my questions. But the thing that I think people can forget is, yes, we do want to create more of a partnership. It shouldn't be them and us, the humans and the dog. It should be family. We're all family. But we have to respect the fact that in this incarnation, in this soul's life, they have chosen to come here as a dog, to experience all the instincts of a dog, to experience the amazing sense of smell that a dog has, the hearing, the all the things that makes the chase instinct, the fun of that, all the things that make a dog a dog. And we have to honor that, and we have to treat them as a dog, even while respecting the fact that there is so much more to them than most dog owners who saying it's just a dog would ever understand. So we have to kind of find a balance. And I think when we find that balance, that also helps to create a much better relationship, because we're honoring the fact that we have a creature here who would probably catch and kill a rabbit if we gave it a chance, you know, but we still love them. But at the same time is a deep and wise soul who we
Yes.
can ask questions of through an animal communicator. So so yeah, it's we have this interesting thing in the relationship that I'm again trying to get this balance of, it is a dog we're talking about here with all the instincts and the behaviors of a dog, but we can do so much to work with them, without sort of thinking we've got to train them and we've got to make them do this and we
Yeah.
have to teach them that they have to behave in this particular way. It's more about creating that loving partnership where we're helping them to see how they can do things differently, or we're helping them by changing what we do in relation to their behaviors.
Wow. So how, okay, we'll put all the links below, but do you want to just say where people can get hold of this course? Because it's not that far between here and April, is it?
No, it's not that far at all. The course is going to
10
go up.
days.
Each module will go up after a week, so people will get each module weekly, but they can do it in their own time. It's going to be on a platform called Podium. It's not there yet. It will be. There's going to be a group as well that people can join where they can ask me any questions they want to, because I'll go in every day and answer questions. But they can also put up pictures of their animals and chat to the other people on the course about how they're getting on. And also, everybody who joins the group, comments in the group, and completes the course will get a free live reading where I will have a chat with their dog about what they feel, how they feel the course has benefited, what changes their families made that they are happy with, how they would like things tweaked to improve things further. So that will be a bonus for anyone who completes the course. And the easiest way to find it would be to join my newsletter, really, because that's where people are going to be told about it. If people go to my website, which is www.ispeakwithanimals.com.
It'll be all the links below. So
Okay.
carry on. Yeah.
Because if they just go to the website, it will pop up a form that asks for their name and email address, and then they'll go on the email list. They'll be notified about it, and obviously they can unsubscribe anytime they want. And as a little bonus, everyone who signs up will get my little booklet, Voices from the Rainbow Bridge, which is
Right.
the words of animals who've passed over, which you got a few weeks ago, didn't you? I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, what a lovely sofa chat that was. I hope people enjoy that as much as I did. And
I did too. It's been lovely. Thank you.
so everything through your website.
Yeah.
I want a photo of Teddy so people can know who we're talking about. Beautiful Teddy.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there was anything else that I made little notes on. So when you say it starts in April, is that April the 1st?
I don't know yet, but it will
No,
definitely be
okay.
in April.
Some
We're on the
point then.
21st of March now. I think it will probably be second week in April.
Okay, lovely. And and of course, how much is it going to cost? People are
Oh.
going to want to know that.
Okay, so the course is £150, but for what's going to happen is when I first send out the email, if people sign up within the first 2 days, they'll get it for £100.
Right. So that's a 6-week course that will change your whole relationship potentially with your dog,
Yeah.
to improve your lifestyle and so that it also improve your dog's life.
Yes, and it will teach you some animal communication techniques as well.
Right. So for 100 quid, sounds like a bargain to me. Thank you so much, Kathy. And it's great to have you as part of the group, the tribe. Kathy joins the Circle of Light whenever you're able to, when you're not doing your readings. And so if you want to ever meet Kathy, if you've not got a dog or a horse and you just want to meet Kathy, then come to the Circle of Light in April, or if you're able to get to it, then I'm not sure. See how your diary goes, but join us and you'll get to know Kathy, or get to know her. And if you need to find out about what's happening with your dog, because if you have got an issue with any of your pets, then do speak up with I Speak with Animals. I
Your,
love it. Yeah, I send a
your
lot.
dog, your cat, your horse, your
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah, or your rat, because you can presumably speak to all sorts of creatures,
Oh,
especially
yes.
stick insects. Oh, I will also put the link to this fab little book that if you've got children or grandchildren, or you're in a school or an environment like that, this is really interesting little book, a very pretty little book as well. So Kathy, thank you so very much. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to take you on a little Oreo walk now before we finish with a short meditation. I'm not sure, it might be around the brook. I think I'll use that image today. Just some nice water, a nice calm oasis of calm in your day. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Imagine now that you are a twig floating on one of those beautiful ripples, without need to control, to determine the path, to determine the time spent here. Just gazing at all that is around you, all the beauty and the majesty surrounding you now. And close your eyes. Allow the warmth of the sun to drive you ever forward into peace. A peace that passes all understanding. And rest.